Everyone to the Krishna Lite show. This is no less than episode number 25. That means we've been going for about 6 months now, every Sunday at 11 a.m. Taking from our cues the wonderful book by Korma called The Great Transcendental Adventure, which describes the visits that Prabhupada, our spiritual master, made to Australia between 1970 and 1975. We're in 1974, so that tells us we're about 80% through with the book. And I'm going to read about a quite confrontational engagement that Prabhupada had at one of the local universities there in Australia called LaTrobe University. But first, let's launch into our show with a soul that deals with one of our fundamental precepts, which is the existence of the soul apart from the body. Krishna conscious devotees believe that we're not these bodies. We're not black, white, Christian, or Hindu, or Jew. The Bhagavad Gita says, Najayate mriyate vaka dacham. For the soul there's never birth nor death. Nayamutpa nabhavita naboyha. Ajo nijo shashvato yambarano. Having been one never ceases to be. Soul is eternal, unperishable, infallible. It is not slain when the body is slain. So this is a song I hope which will accent, illuminate, highlight our own spirituality. We'll wait till the bass kicks in. When I look into your eyes, I see a shining soul. When I look into your eyes, I see a spirit soul. See a soul that's never born, a spark that never dies. Yearns to fly back home, back to the spiritual skies. Flame of light and love gives life to the machine. A candle never snuffed, subtle, sublime, unseen. From dust you come, to dust you go, was never spoken of the soul. This body, like a set of clothes, wears out and gets disposed. Flame of light and love gives life to the machine. A candle never snuffed, subtle, sublime, unseen. For the soul there's no beginning, ending there's none. Smaller than the atom, brighter than the sun. When I look into your eyes, I see a shining soul. When I look into your eyes, I see a spirit soul. See a soul that's never born, a spark that never dies. Yearns to fly back home, back to the spiritual skies. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shall we throw in a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita about the soul? Natu vaham jadu nasham natham nemijana nachaiva nabhavishavi sarvavaya mata param nanam chindanti sastani nanam dadati pavaka nachanam klerianto nasusayati marutaham. Nanam chindanti sastani nanam dadati pavaka nasus. I already did. Vasamsi dirnani atavaya navani grinati naropanani tatasarani bihani anyati samyati namani dehi. Andavanti me deha nitya sukta sirina anasino prameya sha yadyasha vigata jaraha. Dehino shminyata dehu komaram yovaram jaratata dehantara prapya dirastada namoyate. Avinasi tutan vidiyana savamidam tiram shakarmanatam idjacha siddhiminanti manavaham. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You ready for part two? The inner soul continues when the outer body ends, like flame from wood sparks ascending, transcending dark matter, blending with the sky, invisible to the naked eye. You cannot kill nor can you die, you cannot burn nor can you fry. The soul cannot be scorched by any blaze, no water can drown the spirit, no wind can make it fade. You cannot cut another, nor can you bleed. Soul is eternal, unborn, a seed, indivisible, indestructible, forever free from birth, death, old age, and disease. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yet howsoever turned or tossed, the soul can never itself exhaust, seated in the heart, beating its drum, powering everyone, brighter than the sun. The soul's superior force lives on and runs its endless course in God's unlimited universe. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. As a cloud is seated on air, so spirit supports the flesh. Take away the living force, just chemicals residing there, not a twitch or wiggle, not a subtle wink or giggle, can't tickle it or pose it with a riddle, deaf, blind, mute, dumb, numb, can't reward it, can't ignore it, can't restore it, deader than a doornail, stiffer than a board, only thing to return it, burn it, bury it, ash to ashes, dust to dust, earth to earth, infirm body versus immortal soul. Learn the difference, conquer ignorance, make a spiritual choice, sing out, give voice, rejoice, make some noise, for the spiritual force. I say Hari, you say Krishna. Hari, Hari. I say Krishna, you say Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. I say Hari, you say Hari. Hari, Hari. I say Hari, you say Rama. Hari, Hari. I say Rama, you say Rama. Rama. I say Hari, you say Hari. Hari, Hari. When I look in your eyes, I see a shining soul. When I look in your eyes, I see a spirit soul. See a soul that's never born, a spark that never dies, yearns to fly back home, back to the spiritual skies. From dust you come, to dust you go, was never spoken of the soul. This body, like a set of clothes, wears out and gets disposed. Flame of light and love gives life the machine, a candle never snuffed, subtle, sublime, unseen. For the soul there's no beginning, ending there's none, small in the atom, brighter than the sun. When I look into your eyes, I see a shining soul. When I look into your eyes, I see a spirit soul. See a soul that's never born, a spark that never dies, yearns to fly back home, back to the spiritual skies. The inner soul continues when the outer body ends, like flame ascending, transcending dark matter, blending with the sky, invisible to the naked eye. You cannot kill, nor can you die. You cannot burn, nor can you fry. You cannot be scorched by any blaze. No water can drown the spirit. No wind can make you fade. You cannot cut another, nor can you bleed. Soul is eternal, unborn, a seed, indivisible, indestructible, forever free from birth, death, old age, and disease. Yet howsoever turned or tossed, the soul can never itself exhaust. Seated in the heart, beating its drum, powering everyone, the soul's indestructible force lives on and runs its endless course in God's unlimited universes. As a cloud is seated on air, so spirit supports the flesh. Take away the living force, just chemicals lie in there, a corpse naked and bare. Not a twitch or wiggle, not a subtle wink or giggle, can't tickle it or puzzle it with a riddle. Deaf, blind, mute, dumb, can't reward it, can't ignore it, can't restore it, deader than a doornail, stiffer than a board. Only thing return it, burn it, bury it, earth to earth, dust to dust, ash to ashes. Infirm body versus immortal soul. Learn the difference, conquer ignorance, make a spiritual choice, sing out, give voice, rejoice, make some noise for the spiritual force. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That officially opens up our program here. Thanks for joining us on Facebook, Divya Joshi. This is a very interesting pastime of Srila Prabhupada's. I was intimately involved in this. We'll share it with you. During Prabhupada's 1974 visit to Australia, we had an engagement for him to speak at LaTrobe University. The Agora Theater had been reserved and the program was advertised widely. And when Prabhupada entered the Chili Hall, he found it packed with students. That was unexpected. We thought there'd be 30 or 40 students interested in spiritual topics. We didn't think that there'd be 300 students interested in spiritual topics, and we were right, because it was a setup. Devotees held a kirtan on stage and introduced Prabhupada, who looked grave. He began speaking pretty basically about the soul and the body and how this education is required for all people. But after not more than 10 minutes, a young man in the audience stood up. He interrupted and began to shout profanities at Srila Prabhupada. The devotees were shocked, naturally. This young man was a Maoist, and he had his contingency on campus, and they had come in force to the hall with the specific premeditated intention of disrupting the proceedings and causing an incident. So here's how it played out. He shouted, amongst other things, "How do you explain your Rolls Royce?" He said the audience had been quiet and attentive up until this interruption, but as soon as he shouted out, it became noisy and restless. Buddhimanta, Harisori, and Sabapati and Charu, we decided to position ourselves at the back of the hall from where the man was shouting. We didn't know exactly which person had shouted, but we knew he was standing up and near the entranceway. And so Buddhimanta and I went up the stairs, and we stood on either side of the entranceway. And we thought that would keep him quiet, but actually he revealed himself to be standing right next to us, and he shouted some other obscenity. So Buddhimanta and I decided to remove him quietly and peacefully, but forcefully, from the hall. So I kind of grabbed his right arm with my right arm, and Buddhimanta grabbed his left arm with his left arm, and the man was facing the hallway still, but Buddhimanta and I were facing the lobby. So we started walking towards the lobby with him between us. Nothing violent, but quite firm. So he was backpedaling, which he had no choice to do. But Subhapati is a kind of hot-headed guy, and he was very offended by the things that this fellow had said about Prabhupada. So Subhapati runs up the stairs, clearly telegraphing his intention to punch the guy in the face. The guy cannot defend himself because his arms are pinned. We couldn't defend him on his behalf because we were looking in the other direction. And so right in front of this incendiary crowd who had came, most of whom had come just with this idea of starting an incident, Prabhupada gave them all the pretext they needed by punching the guy right in front of everybody. And after that, it was pandemonium. All I remember was one minute I was kind of walking out into the lobby with a fellow pinioned between me and Buddhimanta, and the next minute I was down on the hard lobby floor with about 300 bodies on top of me. I was at the very bottom of the pile. I had no idea what had happened, and I was sore for quite a few days after that. Anyway, here's how Korma describes it, maybe just like I remember it, or maybe slightly different. Let's push on here, shall we? Buddhimanta, Hari, Sori, Subhapati, and Charu decided to position themselves at the back of the hall from where the man was shouting. Meanwhile, Srila Prabhupada stopped speaking and tolerantly waiting. The shouting stopped and he began again. As I was explaining, in material life we have been changing from one body to another. This is not a very good condition of life. No one wants to die, but we're forced to die. After 5 minutes, the abusive language again broke out. This time, Srila Prabhupada's 4 disciples pushed the shouters out the back door. In the fight, one of the students pulled a knife from his boot, but Buddhimanta disarmed him. The atmosphere inside the auditorium was tense, and many people were talking loudly. Some got up to leave. Madhavisa Swami, taking the microphone, pleaded with the students to remain calm and continue hearing from Srila Prabhupada. Some students in the audience seemed on the verge of violence, and the devotees feared for Prabhupada's safety, but Prabhupada was willing to continue. He called for questions. A young student said, "I'm a Christian, and I would like to know what is your opinion of Jesus Christ." Prabhupada said, "We respect Jesus Christ, as you do, because he's a representative of God, Son of God. We are also speaking of God, so we respect him with our greatest veneration." Student had a sarcastic edge to his voice. "You're a son of Jesus too?" Prabhupada, "Yes, I am a servant of Jesus. I don't say I am Jesus." "I want to know," said the student, "if you have the power of Jesus." Prabhupada looked down humbly. "No, I have no power of Jesus." Student said, "Well, I've got the power of Jesus." And apparently some people thought that was funny, so there was laughter. "Because I'm a Christian," he said. Prabhupada, "That's all right. You're a Christian. We are Krishna." It's practically the same thing. And then the crowd laughed louder, gave some applause out of appreciation for Prabhupada's repost there. Student said, "I have one other question. I believe Jesus is coming back and not Krishna. What are you guys going to do when you see Jesus?" More laughter. Prabhupada, "When he is coming, we will welcome him. It is very, very good news that Jesus is coming." Student, "Jesus had no reputation. He wore sandals and was crucified between 2 thieves. And your spirituality is on a Rolls Royce and a padded seat, and you're all into money. You Krishnas, you want money." Prabhupada says, "I don't want money." Student continues, "And you say violence is violence. That's what you believe. Jesus turned the other cheek and he expected his followers to." But by now, most of the devotees sat shocked and stunned with disbelief at the turn of events. Some lady disciples were crying. Despite all the attacks from the crowd, however, Prabhupada, his head slightly lowered, remained humble and non-defensive. He spoke on, quote, "This Krishna conscious movement is not a sentimental religious system. It is science and philosophy." Prabhupada explained that understanding the science of God was transcendental to Christianity or Hinduism. The real goal was to learn to love God. Another student asked a question about Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti stresses that when you're speaking in the Western world, you should speak and present yourself as a Westerner, not as an Indian, or as you would speak in India. Instead of sitting on a raised dais and dressing in the robes of a monk, Krishnamurti would say, "Dress in Western clothes and sit on a chair. What is your opinion of that?" Prabhupada's reply was frank and honest. Actually, a God-conscious man is neither a Westerner nor Easterner, so anywhere the devotee goes, as they receive him, he accepts. These devotees have arranged a raised seat, so I've accepted the raised seat. If they wanted me to sit on the floor, I would have gladly accepted. I have no objection to this or that. But as devotees receive and give honor, that is good for them, because actually they should honor the Supreme Lord and his representative. Nowadays it is different. Students are not learning to honor. But that is not actually the system. According to the Vedic system, the representative of God is honored as God. A student called loudly from the audience, "Do you consider your movement the major form of enlightenment emanating from the United States today?" Laughter from the crowd. Student continued, "What particular role does your movement play in the White House Psychological Warfare Department?" More laughter from his minions. And then again, "Will you be coming to our 4th of July demonstration against the United States this year to try to there's an expletive there, screw it up and divert people away from taking up real political issues concerned with Australia?" The devotees felt helpless. As more students started shouting, Madhavisa Swami again took the microphone. He said, "I can answer if you like. Our movement is not from the United States. If you have some paranoia that everything's coming from the United States, well, that's your hang-up." He got some applause for that, and he continued. "And second of all, our spiritual master came to the United States to start this Krishna conscious movement because he got a ticket on a boat to go there. If you would have sent him a free ticket, he probably would have come to Australia." So he's trying to spread love of God. He's not trying to start any kind of political movement. He's trying to spark a revolution of consciousness. I think you're also interested in revolution, and we are interested in revolution too. We're interested in a revolution that will help people to feel peace themselves, whether they're communists or Marxists or whatever it is you like. We're trying to help people attain happiness because they are. And this comment of Madhavisa's apparently triggered the largest vocal protest yet. The commotion rose to a climax as students all over the hall began to shout together, and it appeared that there was no possibility of any peaceful philosophical discussion. Meanwhile, I'm lying out in the hall underneath about 300 bodies, wondering what's going on. The devotees, and by the way, in the newspaper, they wrote that the devotees had pulled the knife, not that the student had pulled the knife. So the whole thing was rigged against us from the very beginning. We had no idea. Makes a good story 50 years later, though, doesn't it? Those students are all gone. Their political movement is nil, and Hare Krishna has 820 centers all over the world. The devotees' greatest concern now was how to get Prabhupada out of the hall unharmed. Prabhupada rose from his Vyasasana, and the devotees slipped on his shoes. Madhavisa asked Ugrashrava to get the car, and then, accompanied by his disciples, Prabhupada left by a side exit. Now, not only did they have everything primed to explode in the hall, but they had other members ready to throw paint and rocks at our cars as we exited. And this, as I said, had all been prearranged. There was nothing we could have done or said that would have caused a different outcome. So that's explaining Prabhupada's getaway. Prabhupada actually got away before the paint and the rocks came out. But we then had to follow Prabhupada by about 20 minutes, and we had to deal with the ambushes that were set up along the roadside and on the overhead bridges that we had to drive under on the campus. And our fleet, probably four or five vehicles at the time, were all what they called Volkswagen Kombi vans. Remember the Volkswagens with the vents on the back? And we had to try and somehow or other get the vans out without being slapped with paint and the windows smashed with rocks. So the devotees' greatest concern now was how to get Prabhupada out of the hall unharmed. Prabhupada rose from his Vyasasana, and the devotees slipped on his shoes. It had been raining. Some devotees paid full prostrated obeisances in the mud, and Srila Prabhupada smiled. A large crowd of students had gathered outside the door as Prabhupada emerged, but he entered his waiting car without incident. As he rode slowly through the cluster of students, a girl kicked at the car with her booted foot. And as the devotees were getting in their van, students threw stones. Finally, as devotees drove off the campus, they had to pass under an elevated walkway where some waiting students threw black paint down onto the vans. So I was somewhat later than Prabhupada. Prabhupada got away cleanly. But as I was driving the van full of devotees, there were some students coming from the right-hand side, running with rocks, and we were approaching an overpass where they had paint cans, and they'd already plastered one or two of the vans that had already gone. So there was a campus bus. And so in order to avoid the students that were coming at us from the left at 45 degrees, I got around, I jumped the curve and was on the grass, keeping the bus between us and the students, so they couldn't throw rocks at us. And then I also went around the overpass on the grass as well. So some of the vans did have paint on them, and some of the windows were smashed by rocks, but ours wasn't harmed, at least. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada's engagement at LaTrobe University was like a repeat of an unpleasant incident with radical students at La Salle Playa in Paris. Radicalism was a big thing in the world of those days, with the Vietnam War going on, civil rights. That SDS, Students for a Democratic Society, Black Panthers. It was fashionable in those days. That had also been a large free admission audience of students, and that too had ended in a similarly chaotic fashion. Therefore, Prabhupada doubted the value of explaining philosophy to such a large audience, especially those who knew nothing of the tradition and etiquette of spiritual life. Now it was confirmed. Riding in his car back to Brighton, Srila Prabhupada was mostly silent, but he appeared disgusted. From now on, he said, anytime I'm going to lecture, you must charge at least $5 for people to come in. No more open lectures. When we started our color festival, you see the picture in the background, they started getting popular, and for many years they were free. But we also found that to a free event, a lot of unwanted troublemaker elements would come. So eventually we tried to call them out by charging $1. Troublemakers not usually going to pay a fee. And then we charged $3, and for many years now we've just set it at $5, which is very reasonable considering you get 8 hours of entertainment on 2 days. But the fee is not so much for raising money, but it's keeping bad elements out. It's always a good idea to charge something, even if it's only a pittance, because it'll save you trouble in the inside of your event. So Prabhupada told the story of how the Himalayas once gave birth. When the word spread that the huge mountain range of world fame was about to produce offspring, hundreds of people came and gathered at its foothills. The crowds waited in anticipation. Finally, they saw hundreds of rats coming from out of the mountains. In the same way, he argued, universities are big, grand arrangements, but they are simply breeding grounds for rats. As a consequence of the disastrous event at LaTrobe University, an engagement booked for that evening at Ormond College, a residential institution affiliated with Melbourne University, was canceled. The LaTrobe University lecture was Prabhupada's last public speaking engagement in Australia. He went from there to, I think he was in Melbourne at this occasion. Then he went to Sydney for a visit to Sydney before proceeding on with his travels. So let's sing a song here now about chanting the holy names. All Prabhupada wanted to do was introduce the students to the age-old and time-tested process of chanting the names of God as practiced by the great saints and liberated people of old. No political agenda there. So let's talk about the chanting of the holy names. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the great apostle of love of God, who appeared in Bengal 500 years ago, encouraged people to chant the holy names of the Lord to achieve freedom from bad habits, liberation from birth, death, disease, and old age. Kale dosheni hirajan astihekad kirtanyare Krishna Sham Mukta Sangha Parampajak. We're living in a very dark, materialistic winter season of the cosmos. It's called the season of quarrel and hypocrisy. We have an election coming up in a few weeks, and people are just so bitterly confrontational about each other. We had a group of senior citizens here last night, and I was saying, we're all Americans. You know, we're not Democrats or Republicans. We're all Americans. They were Republicans, and they were actually giving me hostile looks. So even to say that we should all come together as Americans now is apparently not a universally accepted statement to put out there. Not everyone agrees. The Republicans think if you're a Democrat, you're a traitor. You're not an American. Democrats, the opposite. So it's not surprising. It was all predicted, described in exact detail 5,000 years ago. And so the difficulties of the current time and age, the quarrel and hypocrisy that's going on, and the bitterness of discussions between former friends and even relatives, simply is indicating to us that we should become more serious about spiritual life. There will never be an ideal utopian solution in this material world. It's a broken world, and the souls that come here do so because they are broken souls. They've forgotten God, and they become progressively more and more entangled in material affairs. So we're escapists. If you say, oh, true, you're just escapist. I admit it. If you're in a fire, you need to be an escapist. So we're burning in the fire of samsara, birth, death, disease, and old age. And any sane man would not make an accommodation in the fire, that they would look for any way that they could get out of the fire. Samsara dava nala lidalog. Prabhupada went to LaTrobe University on a mission of mercy. Wasn't interested in money or getting paid for it or acclamation. Just to give them the channel, the means, the method by which to conquer birth, death, disease, and old age. But they're so mired in temporary political considerations. So unfortunate that they were not able to take advantage of the rainfall, the nectar of his mercy. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was more successful in traditional India 500 years ago. He had thousands and thousands of followers. He himself only spoke 8 verses, which come down to us through posterity. His followers wrote hundreds and thousands of books. But these are the 8 verses of Lord Chaitanya called Shiksha Astakam. Shiksha means instructional, Astakam means 8. These are 8 verses which talk about the glories of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I'll share with you my own contemporary rap version of them, and then we'll give you the original Bengali, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself spoke them. Chanting the holy names extinguishes the flames, breaks the chains, blesses the earth at large with moonlight rays. Discharging waves of nectar, our sense has been craving since ancient days. The holy names put all their blessings to shame. Krishna Govinda, chanted anywhere, everywhere. The mercy Shakti is fully there, divine app to restore your mental software, zap the malware, restart your heart, tap the reservoir of loving care. No hard and fast rules, no lessons, no schools. The bliss of bhakti, rare, yet free for the taking. Only declare your heart is aching in divine love awakening. Night and day, by constant recitation, chant the great mantra without hesitation, free from temptation with the sensation of feeling yourself more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of all prestige. Humility is the key to enjoy the vibration eternally. Wealth in the millions, beautiful women, the spell of fame, worldly acclaim, even liberation. Hey, totally lame compared to the champagne of chanting the holy names. Krishna Govinda, though you're the one, second to none, my shining sun. I'm heartbroken in the ocean of birth and death. It's not worth the commotion. Pull me out of this cruel blender, surrendered as an atom, in the sweet splendor of your tender lotus feet. Lord, one more eyes pour with tears of love like rain from the skies above. One more voice choke up invoking your name. When in transcendence my bodily hairs stand on end. Though a moment appears like 12 years or more when you're not here, I've only to proclaim your name and I'm smiling again. Even if you restrain me, roughen your brace, or pay me by hiding your face, I remain your Lord. You remain my Lord unconditionally, no matter what the difficulty, decline or gain, rain or shine. I am yours and you are mine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now the original Bengali, quickly here. Cheto Darpanam Baba Devagni Nirvapanam Saraya Kairav Chandikavanam Vidyavada Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Svadanam Sarvat Mashnapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahodani Jasarva Shakti Satapita Nimatishmaranena Kalaha Tadishi Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiv Midushamya Janin Anuragaham Trinada Pisa Nichana Tarora Pisa Hishnana Manina Manadana Kirtanya Sarahari Nadanam and Janam Sundarim Kavidam Ba Jagadishama Mama Janmanishari Bhavatad Bhaktir Ayiti Kitwayi Ayananda Tunu Jakinkaram Patitam Mambishame Kropa Tavapara Pankajastudha Vidishanam But Nayanam Gadgadurya Gira Badanam Gadgadurya Gira Pulakam Nichatam Babukada Tavanamagani Vishati Yugaitam Nimeshanam Chaksusa Pravisaitam Sunyayitam Jagatsavam Govina Virename Asli Shiva Parararam Panastim Amadarshanam Mamatam Yatata Vavidata Lampato My Pranandata Stusa Evanaparaham. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting the holy names extinguishes the flames, breaks the chains, blesses the earth at large, delivering moonlight rays. Our sense has been craven since ancient days. The holy names put all their blessings to shame. Krishna Govinda chanted anywhere, everywhere. The mercy Shakti is fully there. Divine app to restore your mental software, zap the malware, restart your heart, tap the reservoir of loving care. No hard and fast rules, no lessons, no schools. The bliss of bhakti rare yet free for the taking. Only declare your heart is aching in divine love awakening. Night and day by constant recitation, chant the great mantra without hesitation, free from temptation with the sensation of feeling yourself lower in the straw in the street, more talented than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige. Humility is the key to enjoy the vibration eternally. Krishna Govinda, son of Nanda, though you're the one second to none, my shining sun, I'm heartbroken in the ocean of birth and death. It's not worth the commotion. Pull me out of this cruel blender. Surrenders an atom in the sweet splendor of your tender lotus feet. Lord, when my eyes pour with tears of love, like rain from the skies above, when will my voice choke up invoking your name? When in transcendence my body hairs stand an end. Though a moment appears like 12 years or more when you're not here, if only to proclaim your name, and I'm smiling again. Even if you restrain me rough in your embrace or pain me by hiding your face, you remain my Lord unconditionally, no matter what the difficulty, decline or gain, rain or shine. I am yours, and you are mine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. See what we've got next here, The Great Transcendental Adventure by Kurmaji. Thanks for joining us, Radhe Shyam, Divya Joshi, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. In his arrangements for contacting special guests to come and visit Prabhupada, Sabapati had concentrated mainly on Melbourne's religious community. Yet when Prabhupada had heard the list of visitors, he had been quick to inquire, where are the scientists? After a frantic search at short notice, Sabapati contacted two gentlemen, one of whom had recently read excerpts from a copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam that his daughter had purchased from a devotee on the street. Both men, Dr. Roy Munsing and Dr. Brian Harap, worked for the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, CSIRO. Dr. Harap was officer in charge of the dairy research laboratories at the organization's Division of Food Processing. As soon as the two gentlemen had taken their seats, Srila Prabhupada asked Satsvarup to read from a particularly pertinent section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, purport from Canto 2, Chapter 5, Verse 23. Human intellect, Satsvarup read, is developed for the advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics. I was there in the room. The verse is Idambi Pumsas Tapasasu Tasavasi Chashishik Chashitibudi Avitutori Tikabiva Yada Tamashoka Gananavaranam. When advancement of knowledge is applied in the service of the Lord, the whole process becomes absolute. Therefore, all the sages and devotees of the Lord have recommended that the subject matter of art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all the branches of knowledge should be wholly and solely applied in the service of the Lord. Art, literature, poetry, painting, etc. may be used in glorifying the Lord. Fiction writers, poets, and celebrated literatures are generally engaged in writing sensuous subjects, but if they turn towards the service of the Lord, they can describe his transcendental pastimes. Similarly, science and philosophy should also be applied in the service of God. Advanced people are eager to understand the absolute truth through the medium of science. Therefore, a great scientist should endeavor to prove the existence of the Lord on a scientific basis. Such scientific knowledge engaged in his service and all similar activities are all functionally Hari Kirtan, or glorification of the Lord. Prabhupada also asked Satsvarup to read a section from the new book, The Scientific Basis of Krishna Consciousness. Satsvarup read aloud from the chapter, Perceiving the Existence of the Supreme Scientist, Lord Sri Krishna. There, the author cited many examples as proof of a supreme intelligence behind the creation. He also cited molecular networks so fantastically and delicately arranged that chemists cannot but wonder about the most expert hand and brain who is making all these wonderful artistic arrangements in his laboratory. Satsvarup read on. The sun, for instance, is 100 Earth diameters across and 93 million miles away from the Earth. Every day, the sun supplies the solar system with a tremendous amount of heat, light, and energy. The very tiny fraction of the sun's energy that falls on the Earth, estimated at about 5 parts in 100 million, is about 100,000 times greater than all the energy used in the Earth's industries. The total energy the sun emits in a single second would be sufficient to keep a 1 kilowatt electric fire burning for 10,000 million years. Put in a different way, the energy the sun emits in 1 second is greater than the whole amount of energy the human species has consumed throughout its entire history. It is only one of countless numbers of stars floating in the sky in every direction. Dr. Prabhupada was interested and he asked who was the author. Prabhupada was proud to point out that it was written by one of his disciples, Sarut Damodar, who was also a scientist. Sarut read the author's credentials. Moving forward here. After more discussion back and forth, Srila Prabhupada brought the conversation around to the subject of inherent spiritual identity. In modern society, Prabhupada pointed out people were giving more stress to the body than the active principle, the soul. When the spirit soul goes away, where is the distinction? Suppose in hospital some Hindu dies, or some Muslim dies, some Christian dies. They are stacked together as useless matter, is it not? There is no distinction now between Hindu, Muslim, Christian, white, black. As soon as the soul is gone, body is useless. But people are putting more stress on the body than on the active principle, the living force. There is no study available in this subject matter in schools and universities. Srila Prabhupada asked the science what they were studying about the living force within the body. Dr. Munsim seemed to accept Srila Prabhupada's point that the spirit leaves the body at death, but he felt that Srila Prabhupada was promoting the idea that one should neglect the body. Prabhupada clarified his point. No, we don't neglect the body. But in the modern age, they are giving more stress on the unimportant thing, and they have no knowledge of the important thing. That is the defect. Dr. Munson disagreed. Science, he argued, could offer a great contribution to the community. With respect, sir, I notice that you wear a watch. This must be obviously a product of science, and this is what it's about. Srila Prabhupada was not impressed. Just like formerly there was no watch, but still they used to keep time by the movement of the sun on a dial, just making some marks on the stone. So their work was going on. Their work was not suffering for want of this watch. If instead of utilizing the brain to know what is the active principle of the whole universe, we utilize the brain for manufacturing a watch, that is not a very good trade-off. You manufacture a watch, but at the same time, you try to study the active principle, the watchmaker. I am seeing the watch with the eyes, but as soon as the active principle is gone, no more seeing. Where is that science? Prabhupada's master debater. You cannot do one-upsmanship with Prabhupada. Prabhupada continued to give an example. A watchmaker is making, screw driving, and doing so many things, and all of a sudden his heart fails. No more watch. What is that active principle? Where is that science? That's my proposition. Srila Prabhupada expertly, and this is expertly, brought the conversation around to scientific discussion and God. Quote, therefore, first of all, we stress the creative reality that the watchmaker is doing nice work, but who has made that watchmaker? Who is that creative faculty? You're a scientist. You have a good brain, but you cannot manufacture your brain. Who has manufactured your brain? Prabhupada made a bold challenge. If you're a scientist, you create a similar brain like yours. That you cannot do. But somebody has created your brain, and who is that person? Professor Einstein, big scientist, but he could not create another Professor Einstein, big scientist, so that after his death, his work could continue. That is not in your hands. You cannot create another similar brain. But if you are surprised with the mechanical arrangement of the small watch, why you should not study the mechanical arrangement of the great scientist, the brain that he has, and who created that brain. But as the mechanical arrangement of the watch is made by some brain, similarly your brain or Professor Einstein's brain, it is also made by another scientist. And who is that scientist? We are glorifying the brain of the scientist, but we are not glorifying the scientist who has made the brain of the scientist. Dr. Munson declined to comment on the challenge, giving the excuse that he had brought a tape recorder along and was recording the conversation. At this point, the doctors presented Prabhupada with a new variety of cheese that the Siro had been working on. In return, Srila Prabhupada offered the scientists some homemade gulab jamuns, and they were a little reluctant to eat the gulab jamuns on the spot because they're kind of syrupy and drippy and sticky, but they took them in a to-go container. That's probably sufficient for our reading today. Let's wind up the show with let's have a song by MC Yogi about the need. We were talking about conflict, quarrel, hypocrisy, divisiveness, confrontationalism. Let's end the show on a different note, okay? This is called Give Love. Give love away. by MC Yogi. Hush a little down, don't you cry. Every little thing's going to be all right. Don't you worry, don't you be afraid. Every little thing's going to be okay. Open up your heart and break the chains. Turn the key and open the cage. Love will always find a way. Always remember and never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Give love. Give love. Give love away. Love is the best medicine. I shine like Edison whenever I let it in. When you're lost, love is sent to remind you, offering signs and providing guidance. Love is infinite, unlimited, and timeless. Just look inside your heart and that's where you'll find it. Always remember, never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Love is the answer. Love is the key. Love is the glue between you and me. Just open up your eyes and you will see. Love is the thing that sets us free. Love is the remedy. Love is the cure. Love is the only thing that will stop the war. It's what everyone's looking for. Then what in the world are you waiting for? Always remember, never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Love to your father. Love to your brother. Love to your sister. Love to your father. Love to your brother. Love to your mother. Love to your sons and your daughters. Love to your sister and all your friends. Shine your love in all directions. Giving and receiving is just like breathing. Living to give love gives life meaning. Because love is righteous and it might just save the world from the global crisis. Always remember, never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Throw your arms up if you know what the time is. Open up your heart and let it shine the brightest. Love is all we need to get by. Love is all we need to get high. Open up your wings and let your love fly. Always remember and never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. You see the background of the Color Festival there. We had to cancel them this year, but we hope we'll be back in 2021. Because people really need to get back together again, give each other some hugs, throw some colors in the air and celebrate diversity. So in fact, I sing this song as the master on stage for the Color Festival, and I have a particular verse that I've added to MC Yogi's stanzas, which goes like this. Hey, color nation peeps gathered all together. Doesn't matter your station, doesn't matter the time or the weather. We gather to love one another, celebrate our independency. We all sisters and brothers share the planet separately. Let me start again. Hey, color nation peeps gathered all together. Doesn't matter your station, doesn't matter the time or the weather. We gathered to. We gathered to. I had a mental break here. Anyway, hey, color nation peeps gathered all together. Doesn't matter the time or the weather. We gathered to celebrate each other, giving out free hugs, tucking each other to our chests. We don't need no drink or drugs to believe that we are the best. You are great beyond measure. Each and every one of you a precious living treasure. Always remember, never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Let's take it from the top one more time. Hush a little down, don't you cry. Every little thing's going to be all right. Don't you worry, don't you be afraid. Every little thing's going to be okay. Open up your heart and break the chains. Turn the key and open the cage. Love will always find a way. Always remember, never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Love is the best medicine. I shine like Edison whenever I let it in. Love is the power that opens every flower, transforms this coward into a champion. When you're lost, love is sent to remind you, offering signs and providing guidance. Love is infinite, unlimited, and timeless. Look inside your heart is where you'll find it. Always remember, never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Love is the answer. Love is the key. Love is the glue between you and me. Just open up your heart. So, love is the answer. Love is the key. Love is the glue between you and me. Just open up your eyes and you will see. Love is the answer. Love is the cure. Love is what everyone's looking for. And what in the world are you waiting for? Always remember, never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Love to your mother, love to your father, love to your brother, love to your sons and your daughters, love to your sister and all your friends. Shine your love in all directions, giving and receiving just like breathing. Living to give love gives life meaning, because love is righteous and it might just save the world from a global crisis. Always remember, never forget. What you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Let's try that Color Festival stanza once again and see if we got it. Hey, Color Nation peeps gathered all together. Doesn't matter your station, doesn't matter the time or the weather. We gather to love one another, share the planet respectfully. We all sisters and brothers celebrate our independency, giving out lots of free hugs, tugging each other to our chests. We don't need no drink or drugs to believe in the best. You are great beyond measure. Each and every one of you a precious living treasure. Got it that time. Nailed it. This completes 25 episodes of the Krishna Lite show. We're towards the end of Prabhupada's fourth visit to Australia in 1974. We'll have to figure out something to do when this series ends in another month or so. Thanks very much for following us. We'll post it on our YouTube channel. You're welcome to subscribe to access all kinds of programs and talks, not only by myself, not only about Utah, but from all over the ISKCON world. Until we see each other again, we'll be on this evening at 5:15 with a talk in connection with our Sunday Love Feast in Spanish Fort. Tomorrow morning, as well as Tuesday and Wednesday at 7:30 Mountain Daylight Time, we're on with the Srimad Bhagavatam classes, Motivational Monday. Feel free to join us at any and all these times. Until we meet again, don't forget to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Once again, all together now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lakshmi Nisringa is asking, did I memorize MC Yogi's song? Yes, indeed I did. I memorized quite a few of his songs. Ganesh is Fresh, Shiva Shine, as well as there's about 14 songs altogether that we bring out and present before the very, very young crowd who appreciates rap music at the Festival of Colors. And in the absence of the Festival of Colors in 2020, I'm trying to keep myself sharp in that area, and so that's the reason why we have this Krishna Lite show. Thanks for your question. Lakshmi Nisringa, love your early morning kirtans, which are so sweet and divine. Thanks for Dibya Joshi for joining us. Radhe Sham as well. We'll sign off and we'll be back on this evening at 5:15 for a nice motivational talk as part of our Chant for Change series. In the meantime, keep well, keep safe, keep healthy, keep peaceful, keep calm, keep loving, keep being devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna.